Okay, let me just broadcast this. Hi everyone, we're just waiting for everybody to come on now. Welcome to this webinar. Okie dokie, we've got quite a few people coming on. It looks like it's going to be a busy one, Ken.
Good. All right. Wow.
Excellent. Okay, so I'll just wait for a few more people to come on and I'll do some introductions. Okay. Everyone, great to see so many people here. Okay, hi, my name's Susan Wilkin. I'm the president of AAVIP, Australian Association of Virtual Industry Professionals. Today I have Ken Phillips with me. Ken's from Self-Employed Australia, and he is the co-founder and executive director of Self-Employed Australia, a volunteer advocacy group defending self-employed people since 2000. SEA is entirely funded from membership fees. Ken has been a small business operator and consultant for more than 35 years and conducts research, commentary and advocacy on small business issues. He has led the advocacy for SEA in achieving unfair contract laws for small business people, the Small Business Tax Tribunal and other reforms. SEA's current campaigns, including reforming the ATO, securing pay on time laws and strengthening the unfair contract laws. So Ken, I really appreciate you coming on this webinar today to giving us some more information in regards to the current government grants that are actually available for small business operators and self-employed people, which the majority of us are. So thank you for joining us today.
Absolute pleasure. Terrific to be here.
Okay, now before we get started, you guys, I just wanted to give you a bit of a heads up. This is a webinar, so you won't be able to see who's actually in here. However, if you click to all panelists and attendees, which is just above your chat box, you'll be able to ask us any questions in there. I'm also going to ask you to open this link because Ken's going to be following along with this article that I asked you all to read before coming on this webinar. And so if you can open up that link, which I've just added in the chat for you. The other way to ask us questions is there's a question answer section. So you can also ask questions in there as well, and we'll be able to answer them as we go. So feel free. We want lots of questions today. I've had a couple come through the AVIP email address, which we'll ask Ken at some stage today too, but if you did want to pop them back in, you're more than welcome throughout the webinar. Okay, Ken, I'm going to mute myself and disappear for a bit, but I will be here in the background, so please feel free to ask any questions. Feel free to proceed and I'll pop in with any questions as we go.
Yeah, terrific. Thanks, Susan. Look, just a quick background. You can tell by the colour of my hair that I'm moving on in years a bit. So I'm 65. So I've got to say I've lived through a few of these crises. My wife and myself have been in business together before we even got married, and we had retail shops. Now we got hit with the recession, the very deep recession of the 1990s, which is a very slow burn, and we had 14% unemployment rate, and so I feel that it almost wiped us out. Almost, we just managed to survive, and that went on for about 4 or 5 years. It took us 8 years to recover, and then of course the GFC, etc., etc. So this one, of course, is quite different because of the speed with which it has hit, which is just extraordinary. And I thought what I'd do is give you just an impression of perhaps where we're at in the context that we're operating in, and whether or not there's light at the end of the tunnel. All I'll sort of quickly do is give an impression of what we seem to know, and obviously there's a lot of guesswork around this. But broadly, what seems to be happening from my perspective, and I'm saying this so that we can understand the context of the support package that's been put in place. So we seem to be running two philosophies across the globe about how you handle this particular thing. One is sort of let it run, And like the president of Brazil is just saying, oh, look, just let it go and we'll eventually get herd immunity. And the other, and so you either let it go or it's already got out of control. So it looks as though it's out of control, obviously, in Europe. I've got a son who lives in Spain. He's been under lockdown for quite some time, much more severe lockdown than what's happening here. So we talk to him quite regularly, and we've got a good idea of what's happening in Spain. The US is, seems to be out of control and so forth. But what we've got here in Australia, they seem to be following the models from Singapore, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Japan. We were in Japan in January, and we were there when there wasn't lockdown happening, but the level of hygiene that was happening in Japan was being ramped up even much more than what it normally is. And Japan's clearly one of the cleanest places, most hygienic places in the world you can go. So what it seems to me is that the Australian model is following the model from Singapore through the Asian communities who have had the experience with SARS and so forth. So obviously what they're doing is saying, look, we all isolate, we lock it down, we seek to minimise the spread of the thing so that we can control it or minimise its impact, and so on and so forth, and then see how we come out at the other end. So the reason for putting that context in, because all of the package that they've put together is predicated around a 6-month time frame. And so the guess is that those in the know in government and the health circles and so on and so forth, their experience, they're of the view that we've got a 6-month process here. And I'm guessing it seems to be, with people I talk to, that the peak of this is expected in some sort of April, towards the end of April, and then we've got this tail running off. So the impression that I get, from what they're doing, and I have quite a lot of discussions with people in the government sector and so forth, is that the hope here perhaps is that Australia has been sealed off from the rest of the world, that we get the thing somewhat under control, and that there's a point at which they start to reopen the domestic economy. But because of the extent of it happening globally, we may be sealed off from the international economy for some time, and that could go on for a year or more as they it gets under control somewhat, and the vaccine arrives and so on and so forth. But even just today, one of the things that gives us some hope perhaps around this is that cargo flights from China have restarted. And I was talking to some people in the hotel industry just last night, and they have got their first bookings from flight crews that are coming in. So there's already sort of, small hints, but who knows? We can't guess. So look, they're my guesses around what seems to be happening based on the packages that have been put in place by the government, the fact that it's 9 months, etc. But they're my guesses for whatever it's worth. So the thing is, what I'll do is, if you've all got the link up, now if you haven't got the link to our website with the summary, you'll get a bit lost in what I'm talking about. And but what I'll do is I'll go through these one step at a time. Hopefully the information I'm giving you here is what you already know, so I may be stating the obvious. The information that we've put together is the best that we can get that is factual. I'm not in the business of passing comment on whether any of this stuff is right or wrong, but try to just give the facts as best we can understand them. On each of the items that we've got up there, which we've got numbered 1 through to 9 or 10 or whatever it is, you'll notice at the bottom of those, we've got info here. They are source links. They are links to the source government documents. And so anything that I say is predicated on, it's the best available information from the government documents that have been put out. The other thing also to be cautious about is that not all the legislation has been passed. So the information from the government on some of these items is not necessarily locked down. I can tell you, I'm well aware that there is a unit inside the ATO who is scrambling like crazy to try and sort all the detail out. Some of the stuff, as I said, legislation hasn't been passed. We've got information even in the documents that we've sourced here where documents are not consistent with each other. And even last night I sent off a long letter to the Treasurer, which went to Treasury and ATO and various others, saying, look, here are some issues that we think are in conflict. Can you give us clarity? So one of the things is that we're digging down into the detail as best we can. I think we've got to be understanding of the people who are working in government here at all levels. They're under enormous pressure. They are putting this together with a speed which is blinding. So there will be some hiccups through the system. Certainly, we follow this sort of stuff up. We've got very good contacts at quite a number of different levels in government. If you've got a query that we haven't been able to answer and there's some issues around you, more than happy, send us an email and we'll seek to follow it up. One of the things with our website here, we will continue to update this summary, and as more information becomes available and clear, if you want to keep getting those updates, you can do a number of ways. You can just go to our homepage. You can become a member of ours. We're a volunteer organisation. We rely on membership fees, and you can join. It's as low as $5 through to our full package that's available there. Or you can simply go on to, if you scroll down on the right-hand side of our homepage, you'll find a spot where you can put in your name and your email address, and you'll go onto our listing and you'll get the updates as they come through. So first thing, what we're all concerned about, of course, is how much money is available and what we get in our pocket. So if you refer to item number 1, we've referred to this as the access to income support. That is if you don't have any work. So this is the current job seeker and the youth allowance scheme. And so the long and the short, point number 1, there was a very, very quick change to this. As soon as everything happened, this was the first one, and the legislation on this has gone through. And I've got to say congratulations and thanks to the government, because for the first time, I think we've really seen a complete recognition of the importance and the role of all of us self-employed people in the community, and that they had to make sure that there was a support net under us, just as there is under everyone else. So prior restrictions for self-employed people, sole traders, all of us, to access the job seeker payments, the unemployment payment, all of those restrictions have been removed. So there is absolutely no restriction. If your income has collapsed, you are able to immediately go and get that job seeker allowance online, Centrelink or whatever. Now that's worth, the bottom line on that is for a single person with no children is $566, or just nearly $566 a fortnight. The government have then added a special coronavirus supplement, which is an additional $550. So you would receive $1,116 per fortnight if you're single. It goes up to the stuff that I got off the Centrelink site myself. It goes up to $612 plus the $550. So you can get close to $1,200 a fortnight. On top of that, you are able to continue to earn money. So you can earn up to an additional $1,000 a fortnight before the payment cuts out. Now, I'm not aware of sliding scales in terms of if you earn X, does it drop that back this? I'm not aware of those sliding scales. On the surface, it seems that if you get the job seeker amount plus earn the $1,000 a fortnight that you can get in, 2,100 or thereabouts to live off. So that's the support sitting underneath. The restrictions, both in terms of whether you're employed or the time limits, all of those waiting periods, all gone. Now, the additional $550, that is only available for the next 6 months. So again, here's this 6-month process locking in. And so if things are really desperate, that's your first port of call. So if I go down to item number 2, then this is the access to income support if you're still working but you don't have employees. So here's the thing with all of us self-employed. There's a whole series of categories that we all fall into. There's roughly 2.1 million or thereabouts of us. So us self-employed people. And we fall into several categories. There's in the order of 700,000 to 800,000 of us who also employ people at arm's length. And then there's the balance, the 1.1 million or thereabouts, or 1.3 million, whatever it is. The rest of us are sole traders. So we're just on our own. No employees, although as we know with the VA network and so forth, that we all will work with each other. We'll coordinate, even though we're not doing employees. It's contractor to contractor arrangements. Now, if we've still, and then we fall into the categories of it's just us as an individual sole trader, no structure. Then we might have a partnership. Then we might have a PTY. Then we might have a trust. So then those categories. And when it starts to get to understand what happens around those categories, that's where some confusion does get in, and where my observation is that the government hasn't worked out the application across some of those issues, and there's not necessarily clarity on, for example, what does one process apply with say PTY or a trust. But we'll come to that in a minute. So if you're still working but you don't have any employees, and your business income, now when I say income, your business turnover, so gross income, has dropped by more than 30%, you are eligible to apply for the $1,500 a fortnight. So note here, under the job seeker, you can get in the order of $1,100 to $1,200 a fortnight. And under this new one, the job keeper, you can get $1,500 a fortnight. So you're dealing with roughly a $400 difference between the two schemes. There was a question to me about, is this taxed? And there's been some stuff up on media commentary I noticed where I said, look, one's taxed and the other isn't. I've gone on to the Centrelink website looking at that, and from what I can gather, all income, however it's achieved, is taxable. That's the impression that I've got at the moment. So I don't think any of these are tax-free, but I won't swear by that. So I'll err on the side of caution in giving an answer on that particular. You've got a question.
I do, Ken.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I've been asked, is payment based on means test against partner's wage, or we are entities in our own right as sole trader to receive the $1,500 payment?
Right. When I had a question on our Facebook page about this, about a partner, and so I had to ask the question: are you talking about a business partner or a spouse?
As a business partner, they could be entitled to it too, couldn't they?
So look, I think the key thing here is the understanding is that they've basically removed all restrictions, and they've really made it very easy to get access to it all. So my view at the moment is that I don't think any of those restrictions would be there. Basically, the thrust of all of this is they don't want us to go broke, and they don't want us to fall into poverty, and they want us to be able to come out the other end. So I think that there's a fair bit of erring on the side of being more generous rather than being tight with the thing.
Okay.
We probably won't know until the whole of us start applying. I'm not happy to, but yeah.
Yeah, and at the moment it's just intention to apply until the legislation's through. That's correct, isn't it?
Yeah, so if you notice with the, I'll just check again. Yeah, the item number 2, the access to the job keeper, it says, I've got the link there, it says apply to the ATO here, right? And you'll notice it just says to register. That's because the legislation hasn't been passed. I think that they're still drafting the legislation, so that all the detail is still being sorted out, and they're trying to work out themselves all the scenarios. Parliament's not supposed to be recalled until August, but I've read that it's having a fast recall next week, and so the detail, in other words, the detail's not there. The legislative detail's not there. So we're looking as best we can. So
more
go on.
questions, sorry.
Yeah.
Will existing payments received from Centrelink be classified income regarding part of the $1,000 a fortnight threshold?
The logic of it says yes.
Okay.
I think whatever happens here, and as I said, when I went into the Centrelink website, it talked about income being taxable. So if your income is above the tax-free threshold, you'll get taxed at the normal rates. I think that's the way it's going to work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next one, Mark's asked, oh, hang on, Anita's asked, is that 30% over the entire year or in a month? I thought it was per month that you've got to do that. Is that correct?
My interpretation is it's monthly, yes.
Okay, and
Yeah.
I'm also hearing that you've got to report it monthly. Yes, you've actually put on here, report monthly to ATO
Yes.
on your business income.
Yeah.
And it needs to be comparative from the same time last year, doesn't it? So
look,
March
again,
to March, April to April.
Right, again, the legislation has been passed.
Okay.
The form's not available. I've got even someone that does work for us, and we've had to cut them back. What I'm doing is I'm supplying a letter saying, as a consequence, we're cutting back the budget, here it is, blah, 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 blah. So what I'd do is talk to clients and ask a client to give you a letter saying they've cut back the budget or they can't use you anymore. Just accumulate that sort of evidence, because we don't know what evidence we're going to have to supply, and I don't think that the ATO yet knows. So what you've got is, remember, the job seeker is administered by the Centrelink. The job keeper is administered by the ATO. So two different things here. As just a quick aside, one of the things we've long complained about the treatment of small business people by the ATO, and even the communication that we sent off yesterday was raising some issues with the Treasurer to say, look, here's something that we're not sure of, and here's another issue we're not sure of, in terms of, say, demonstrating that we actually had the drop in income. The ATO has a habit of being highly aggressive after the event. So look, 2 years' time, are they going to turn around and start whacking people and saying, look, that's not sufficient proof, we want money back, all that sort of stuff. We're laying some groundwork to get evidence to say, well, look, what was really going on here, and trying to get the ATO to behave. But that's something that we're predicting sort of maybe a year to 18 months down the line. So just get the best information you can and be as straightforward and honest with you can.
Yeah. A couple more questions. So Mark works via a trust. He's the sole director of the company, no employees. Would it be JobKeeper or New Start or Job Seeker for him?
Look, that's up to you. If you have, so here's the balance. You're talking of a difference of between, say, $300 and $400 a fortnight, and there's the balancing act. So if your business income or turnover has dropped by more than 30%, but you're still earning $1,000 a week, right? Obviously, what you'd do is you'd go on to the JobKeeper. So it will depend on your circumstances, but there you know the calculations. It's going to depend on the size of your income drop. Clearly, if you can access the JobKeeper, it's going to be better for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Couple more questions. So we have two sole traders here, actually, Charlene and Tamsin, and they both mentioned that they haven't been in business for 12 months, so they don't have a comparative March to March or April to April. Will they be still entitled to the JobKeeper, or would they be better off applying for the Job Seeker?
What I would do at this stage is I would register for the JobKeeper, and when they pass the legislation, we will then know what the arrangements are. So it's probably prudent to register for the JobKeeper, and then you'll get informed by the ATO, and we'll then know. And this is where we'll do updates on our website. We'll then know what the rules are, and then know where we can. So look, clearly you're going to be better off with JobKeeper.
Yeah, definitely. And also, I mean, the worst case scenario is the ATO says no. So you're not entitled. Yeah. And then you go to the Job Seeker, which will then be back paid.
Yeah.
Couple more questions.
I've got to say that it's a pretty comprehensive scheme. They've really shoved in an income net under all of us, and we as self-employed people have not missed out. It's really a matter of which one we jump for.
Yeah. So just a couple of confirming here that the business incomes needs to have dropped by 30% or more. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Yep. So it's at least a 30% drop in business revenue. Is that the correct term to use?
That's revenue, yes.
Yep, perfect.
They refer to turnover.
Turnover. Okay, great. And just another confirm. So the JobKeeper program allows you to continue earning at reduced levels, but you still receive the $1,500 on top of that.
Correct. If your business income or your business turnover has dropped. Now, you're then having to report monthly, and hopefully your business income will jump back up again and you become ineligible. What a wonderful thing not to be eligible for it. Let's hope that we all wind up in that situation not too far down the line, but yes.
Yeah. And Debbie's just confirming again that she has just started her business and made no income to date. So Debbie, it would be Job Seeker for you instead of JobKeeper because you haven't got that comparative to use for your business.
But once again, I'd be inclined to fill out the application form, and then when the information comes through, this is a moving feast at the government end, as they are getting more feed in from organisations such as ours, and the members of Parliament are being inundated with these sorts of queries. As all of that gets fed in, we might find that there's shifting in or clarification on issues that might make you eligible. So I'd apply if you think that I'd do both.
Yep. So a couple more questions, Ken. Sorry.
No.
So in March, my turnover was quite good, but in April, I've already got clients that are cancelling and saying, "Look, we can't do this." So I would be applying for the JobKeeper because my business is well down under 30%. But I would still apply. What date is that entitled to? Is it from the 30th of March?
Again, what you do is you'd register for it.
Yep.
And then again, we'll get the updates of information, how it all plays out.
Yeah.
Conceptually, at the moment, and this is conceptually, not we know, but conceptually, you probably wouldn't get the payment for March.
Yep.
But would then likely get the payment for April.
Yep. But it wouldn't be paid until May at this stage.
Well, if I'm guessing is that it's also the first March payment will be paid in the first week of May,
Yep.
So then the first payment for April, I'm assuming, will be the first week of June.
Yeah, and of course you'd have to show that turnover for April as well before it'd even be titled. So it would take a month to get through the ATO with everybody else. Okay, that makes
I'm
sense.
quite sure there are some IT people at the ATO who haven't slept for the last week and probably won't sleep for the next couple of weeks. Yeah.
Or months at this stage.
Yeah.
Yes.
So look, I think one of the things here is because of the speed of this, I think if all of us give government a little bit of breathing space, we don't need to panic. Obviously, we all need our incomes, but just let it unfold. They are working on top of it. And even the communication that I've had in the last 24 hours with people in at the ATO and Treasury and so forth, it's, oh, look, thanks very much. Good, yes. I said, oh, I don't want to annoy you too much. And they've said, please annoy us, right? So they are working pretty hard, I've got to say, which is good.
Okay, I'll let you move on, Ken. That's all the questions on that for now. Thank you.
Right. Okay, so moving on to 3A. Now, here's the extraordinary thing, and this is a very big step for all of us. So if you have employees, you only need to have one. You get a tax-free, well, this one's tax-free. And again, I'll be cautious on this, but it does say tax-free. This is where you supposedly get a tax-free subsidy of between 20,000 to 100,000, depending on the number of employees that you have. So if you have a business where you have just one employee, the way it reads and the way it seems to be operating is that you're going to get 20 grand tax-free. This is quite extraordinary. Now, this is the first one that was released, and the legislation for this was passed last week from recollection. So I've got there, it says ATO information here, and if you click that link, you'll see that it's quite extensive because they do have the legislation. Now, so the way this is administered is that you put in your normal PAYG statement, whether you do that monthly or quarterly. So most of us would be doing it would be quarterly. And where you do withholding payments, income tax withholding payments on employees, you will then be automatically sent money by the taxation office. That money will come to you in one of two ways, as I understand. There will be a credit given to you against your GST payments, or you will receive a direct payment from the ATO. It's not completely clear how it works. There's I've got to say, administrative, I like to call it confusion, but administrative lack of clarity, but this is how it seems to me to be working. So you put in your PAYG, and if you've got even just one employee, and I think even if that one employee is a casual, this will trigger a payment to you. This is the area where just last night we sent a very long query to the Treasurer himself, and to Treasury and to the ATO and the Small Business Minister, et cetera, saying, look, we've got some substantial questions around this. Can you clarify? Those questions, which might anticipate some of you here. So, for example, if you have a PTY or operating through a PTY, and it's even just you, but you lodge your BAS and you pay income tax withholding on yourself as your own employee of your company, it appears to us that you'll get 20 grand. That's how it appears to us. Now, the policy of the government, however, and this is where there's some conflict between some of the fact sheets that have been put out by both the government, the Department of Business and the ATO, and where we've got our query, is the policy talks essentially we believe of making payments, or this 20,000, if you've got employees who are at arm's length from you. In other words, another person that you employ, not you working in your company. But the administrative triggers seem to apply if you have a PTY, maybe even a partnership, maybe even as a sole trader. So we've put in the queries on that. If you actually do have, arm's length employees, seems to us that you're going to get 20 grand tax free, which is almost sort of whoopee. No matter what's happened to the turnover of your business. So that one almost seems to be too good to be true, but I think the summary that we've put in there is accurate, but I wanted to alert you to the queries that we've got ourselves in terms of the application of that and how it's actually going to be administered. Again, we really won't know until it starts to happen. I thought I'd stop there just for a minute if there are any queries on that one, Susan, perhaps.
Yeah, there's just a couple of comments. Like Rachel just mentioned, from friends who have employees, she believes this 3A allows the payback of PAYG that's already been given to the ATO this year. Does that sound right?
They talk of credits.
Yeah,
but they don't, and this is where it's sort of got confusing. Is there a credit? When do you get it? When you make the next PAYG payment? So actually, when do you get the money? So what I've read is that the credits will go against your GST payments. These are questions in terms of the administration, the timing of it, and I can't seem to find any information from the ATO stuff that sort of clarifies that at this stage.
Yeah, so as somebody, like, I've just paid my PAYG for the last quarter, and I'll be due to pay another one. But say if you're only paying a minimal amount of like a couple of grand or whatnot, will you still get the 20 grand, or will you only get the 2 grand of it? I suppose that's the
way the policy reads is that you'll get the 20.
Sweet. Okay.
Yeah. Now those payments will come over a period of time.
Yeah.
So they're not all in. They're not all in one. And this is the one that does seem to be tax free.
Hey, I like that one. And well, it is paying tax on tax, right? So
yeah. Well. So
okay. So it's just asked a question. We draw dollars from. Yeah, my shout, Anita, definitely. I'll be, well, when we can actually go out, it'll be my shout at the pub anyway.
Good. I'll get up.
Sweet. Okay. Ed's asked, we draw dollars from the trust weekly, not as an employee, as a loan. At year's end, the trust then distributes the income to trustees for tax. The trust invoices and gets paid for our contracts. Right,
so I'd need to ask a further question. Do you have arm's length employees? The person who has that question. If you don't, the policy intent is that you don't get the 20,000 or the subsidy. The other thing too is the administrative trigger is entirely based around making PAYG payments. So if you're doing loans and that sort of stuff, and you're not making PAYG withholding payments, it won't trigger the $20,000 or whatever it might be to you. That's the way it reads.
Okay.
Have I been clear on that?
I think so. I'll wait for Ed to come back to us, but we do have another question here. So, yep, Ed said yes, thank you. So Linda's asked, so I pay PAYG as a sole trader because the ATO required me to, but I don't employ anyone. So does this PAYG credit apply to me as well?
That's the query that we've put in just last night to the Treasurer and the Treasury. I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, because Linda's an employee. So she's the sole employee.
Yes, but it's not consistent with the documentation on the policy intent by the government. So I think that it's going to, if you're making the PAYG, administratively it will trigger the payment. That's what we think, but that's not how it's explained in the policy, in the government's fact sheets or the ATO's fact sheet. But there's one ATO fact sheet that says one thing and another that seems to say the reverse. So we've got the query in on that one.
Okay, great.
And we won't know until it actually happens. Our concern on this is that, yes, it does trigger payments and people get this money. Well, thank you very much. But then, in a year's time, the ATO turns around and says, whoops, you shouldn't have got it, pay it back. So that's the concern that we've got, and we've seen the ATO's behaviour on this sort of thing in the past, which is, when I say unimpressive, I'd say it's appalling. So our query at this stage is that we want to make sure that that's covered off as best we can if this eventuates, say, a year down the line where we've got people getting attacked because they've been paid money they didn't know they shouldn't receive.
So Stephen says, we had a staff member join on the 16th of March, so just outside the 1st of March timeframe. She's full-time and replaced a retiring staff member of 9 years, and he feels kind of cheated in regards to that. Yes, I would too, Stephen. That's not fair.
Yeah. It appears, look, again, what I'd do is I'd put in the application and register the interest. So your alternate here is that you then sack them and then bring them back. But these are all of the areas where, yes, you'll feel cheated, and these are all the gaps in the system. Again, we don't know the clear answers. I think that you're correct, but again, we need to wait for the legislation to have been passed.
Okay, great. I think that is it for the questions for now, Ken.
All right, well, I'll move on to 3B. So that's clearly one which we've just talked about now. You have the employees, the wage, and we've called it the wage top-up. This is through the JobKeeper process. So again, your income must drop 30%. So this is a situation where you actually do have one employer, maybe 5 employees, whatever it is. But there's some interesting questions around this. So your income must have dropped 30%. The reporting the number of employees as of the 1st of March. So it's backdated. This is the one that's backdated the 1st of March, which is, I think, different from the other stuff. Where so the situation, and look, the normal situation is where, say, in the hospitality sector, right across the board, restaurants, everyone's been all closed down. And what you can do is you can bring, and I know a number of people are in that situation, you can bring the employee back. You put in and apply for the $1,500 per fortnight, and then you pay them that. You must pay them that $1,500. You can't pay them less. Now, what you then do with them, whether they sit at home, if you have no customers, and what you do with them, up to you. But if you've got a restaurant, maybe there's a lot of cleaning you can do. Walls that need to be painted, renovations that need to be done. There's a Greek coffee shop down the road from where we live, and they're madly renovating the place. So if someone's been earning more than $1,500 a fortnight, there's interesting questions around this as to whether or not you're required to pay them what they were earning, with the $1,500 topping it up. And I think that's what the government is hoping most people will do. But it seems that if you had needed to sack the person because of the coronavirus, and then you bring them back on, you only need to pay them $1,500 a fortnight. Now, this this area of it gets complicated because of obligations that you might have under the industrial relations system. And again, I think what's happening here is that there's a flurry of negotiations going on between perhaps the union movement, the government, various bodies and so forth, because I think we're dealing here with the grey area of the law in terms of your obligations under the industrial relations system if you'd still had people on. So I don't think the answers on those sorts of issues are there at this stage. Again, this is just a 6-month program. First payment will be in May. And again, you have to report your business income each month. And obviously, hopefully, everyone's income doesn't drop by 30% or it drops back, it rises up again, and then you won't need the subsidy, fingers crossed. Yeah.
So Serena's asked, I run a performing arts school, so my turnover is term by term. I'm still trying to recruit the remaining fees for term 1. At this stage, term 2 income is likely to be 0 from May. I feel that job seeker is the way for me because I won't be receiving anything until the end of May before I can show 0 income. Or maybe I go the 20K route as I pay my own PAYG through my quarterly BAS. What do you feel here?
Look, the 20,000 one, if you're going to get it, that will be automatically triggered. And so it's not something, as we understand, that you're having to apply for. It's just going to happen. So you'll just have to sit back and say, oh, where'd this money come from? And maybe it's there. The toss-up between where you go for the job seeker or job keeper, again, you're dealing with a potentially, $300 to $400 difference. Obviously, you'll know your own circumstances and which one will suit you better. And so with either alternative, if your income's dropped down to 0, you can keep still earning money within those limits. So again, what I'd be doing is I'd make application, register your interest in the job keeper, wait and see what happens. I don't think that stops you applying for the job seeker one. And then you can see how it unfolds. As I said, the legislation hasn't yet passed on the job keepers. So those sorts of details we really don't know at this stage, I don't think.
Also, just confirming there, I thought both job seeker and job keeper weren't starting for payments until May anyway. So I thought you had to wait a certain amount of time for those payments to start coming
so
through.
The job keeper one, definitely first payment is early May. The job seeker, it's whatever all restrictions on accessing it under Centrelink rules have been removed. I can't say that I'm aware of what the timelines on the payments are. Now, all waiting periods to go onto the system have been removed. Okay. They can go onto it and apply for it straight away. When the payments actually come through, I'm guessing that they're a fortnightly payment. But, probably a quick Google search on that one would...
MyGov might have the information as well.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Now, Frank's asked, ODCO, I'm not sure what that acronym is, but applies to us, or the individuals need to apply outside of the ODCO licensee?
I know Frank, and I know what he's talking about. Frank, I had communication with Russell yesterday, and I have drafted a letter which he has sent off to people he's got in the ATO. And Frank, you and I can talk offline about that later. Okay,
thanks. Okay, so Tamsin's asked, 3B, what happens if your business folds due to CV shuts completely? Do you still receive the $1,500 for your employees once business is shut down? Do you have to pay PAYG to ATO on this $1,500? Good question.
Look, if you've completely stopped trading, here I'm applying a process of logic, right? What we hope would be logic within the intent of the scheme. If your business has totally stopped trading, and I think that you want to keep the people on and try to do stuff with them, and you want to keep the intention here is that businesses stay engaged with the people who work with them to try and keep things going, so that when this thing gets resolved in some way, we're already there. Boom, let's keep going again. So the government, I think, wants you to apply for this. They want you to get with those people and do a whole lot of Zoom work together. So I think the encouragement is, yeah, look, keep your ambitions going. Don't drop your ambitions. Don't let don't become disconnected from the people that you're working with. Keep it rolling for as long as you can, and you've got $1,500 per person per month to keep things rolling. So
yep.
your business is operating at a much lower scale. And even if you're sitting around saying, well, look, what can we do? You know, let's plan out some ideas here. Let's write some syllabus if you're, whatever. Let's do some creative dance together, or, etc.
Yeah.
Or start designing emu paintings. What do you reckon?
Yeah. I love them. I love them. Chris Huxtable's asked, what if the casual that you have employed for over 12 months earns approximately $220 a week? Do they still get the $1,500 per fortnight, or will it be the $440?
No. My belief is that they'll get the $1,500.
Yeah. And then does this money collected for casual staff get added to our income for the year, and then we pay tax on that next year? That's a good question.
No, well, I understand the $1,500 is paid to you, but you are required at law to pay that $1,500 to the worker.
Yeah, I've heard it goes on the one touch.
Yeah. They're trying to operate as much through the one touch.
Yeah.
And so it will, yes, I would assume it will be registered. I'm assuming it will be registered as business income, or it will contribute to your turnover. But of course, then it's offset on the other side with an expense to the employer. But you have to pay that full $1,500 across to the worker.
Okay, and then Carol's just asked, as well as business income, I get the age pension. Does this get included in the income to calculate the 30% drop?
I'm not familiar with the the requirements around aged income. I think fantastic that you're getting it and you're working. I think it's brilliant. Keep it up. As I'm 65 and still working, yay, grey hairs. Okay, let's keep going. So look, I've got to say I'm not familiar with that. My guess is the answer would be yes, but I know that there are all sorts of sliding scales around what your entitlements under the age pension are according to your income, etc., etc. That's an area that is all too complicated for my small head at the moment, I've got to say.
Yeah. And then Liz has just asked, does $1,500 paid to employers for casual workers, including cafe staff? My son has lost his job and the place has closed down and only doing delivery food. So is he still working, Liz? No, he's not working. And then
I would contact the business. If you've got a good working relationship with them, say, hi, I'm here. What can I do? Are you aware that you can apply for $1,500 a fortnight for me, and then you only need to pay me the $1,500 a fortnight? Here's the form. Here's the place where you go and register. I'd like to come back and start working, and I'm not going to cost you a thing.
Yep. Even if he's doing a couple of hours a week kind of thing, or what is it, minimum 3-hour shift? And if yes, then does that mean?
Yeah. So don't wait for them to say, here come, go in and go, hey, I'm back. Hi, big smile on my face.
Oh, so Liz is just saying they're not open at all. They've actually closed down. So, yeah, Liz, by the sounds, you may need to go for job seeker over because
or give them a ring,
give them a call.
Because this payment here, even if the business is closed, the intention is that the government wants the connection to be kept. So who knows, if you say they're doing home deliveries or whatever it is, but there doesn't seem to be a requirement even that you have to be working, as long as you've got that connection happening. So I'd go and have a talk to the owners of the business, and no doubt they're all very stressed out. Get them to have a quick look at our link here on the website, because it's highly likely that they will be eligible for and receive the cash flow, the 3A, the cash flow support. All of a sudden that might make a difference to what they're doing. So yeah, no, take the initiative and get in there and help them out. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's move on. Thanks, Ken.
So very quickly then, number 4, obviously you can access your superannuation. If you're, so as a sole trader and so forth, if your income has dropped 20%, so you can draw 10,000 this financial year and another 10,000 next financial year. That number 4 actually explains a lot of or partly explains the drop in the stock market, or partly explained it because the superannuation funds who may not have had enough cash around are having to sell stock to make sure that they can fund this. But so you're entitled to access that. Number 5, fairly generous subsidies there if you currently have apprentices or trainees. So you should be getting into that straight away. So your typical plumber, electrician and so forth with the apprentice, get into those. Number 6, you can, or the banks with agreement from the government, because the government's given them some backup here. They're deferring loan repayments, but the sting in the tail there, of course, is that it's not going to, at this stage, reduce your liability. It's just a deferment of the payments. You can, in number 7, if you're really desperate, you can apply for small business loans, which are government backed. Apparently, you don't need any security on those. So if you're in a situation where you think that might assist, go and talk to your bank fairly quickly. Number 8, if you're lucky enough to actually have money and need to spend it on doing extra things, there's the instant tax write-off, so you can straight away write it off your income for this year. Number 9, important, if you're in a situation where you think you're going broke and you're in real strife, you can get the job seek or job keeper, whatever it might be. There's through ASIC and APRA, there's been a lessening of the rules around trading insolvent. And so your liability as a director of the company, if you are going broke, there's some relief there around that. So that sort of takes a little bit of pressure off if you're in that serious situation. Then quickly, what we've done is a summary of the various arrangements happening with the state governments, and you'll find there, just so we've got info link here. That info link, if you click on that, you'll find it goes to the federal government website that then has links through to all the state government websites. So we've just summarised that. And then just got some little bits and pieces down the bottom there. Particularly number 13 is stuff from ASIC in terms of be careful of scams. There's a lot of scams going on. Situation in terms of refunds, both your obligations as a business in terms of the refunds, and also yourself as a consumer in terms of travel and all those sorts of things. So that's the package that we've been able to see that the government's put together. From our angle, I think pretty comprehensive. They want our businesses to keep going, and but as I said, there's still fine detail to come through.
Okay, so I know it's very comprehensive, and it's one of the better stimulus packages that we've actually seen. I was actually quite impressed when I actually watched the Prime Minister actually state all of this as well, and I actually was actually quite impressed with it too. Now, Serena just mentioned too, the problem is that cafes can't afford to find the $1,500 per fortnight from the 1st of March or from the 30th of March to May, when they then receive the government. Her daughter's cafes only has 20% of its income, plus they're paying high rents and all the other things with keeping a cafe open. I agree with you, Serena. It's a hard scenario.
And look, all you can do, once again, what I'd do is I'd register your interest, work with them as best you can. You know, look, even with these sorts of things, you know, I had a coffee shop where I lost a whole lot of money on it. Right? I worked out I'm terrible with food, and but we had other businesses, and having been in retail for 25 years, I know the stress that these people are under. Right? And one of the things, just going in and having a chat with them and saying, "Can I help? Can I do this?" Just reconnecting with them. And can lift their spirits anyway. And you know, we've got a way to go on this thing. But just remember, if the approach that this government is taking works, or I say all of the governments, so we've got the federal and the state governments, if what they're telling us and the approach they're taking is that they want to contain it and control it and keep a lid on it, and if we got to a stage where there were no new infections occurring and so forth, you know, we may see them start to open up the restrictions a bit, and it all started coming in. I've got to tell you, the restrictions that my son's under in Spain leaves us for dead here, absolutely for dead. You know, you basically go to a supermarket, it's only 1 or 2 people allowed in the supermarket at any one time. Everyone's wearing gloves, face masks. Surfaces being wiped non-stop. He said you almost pass out from the smell of the disinfectant in the supermarkets. So in a lot of respects, we ain't seen nothing yet, but the government seems to be wanting to stop us getting to that sort of level. Yeah, this thing, it's happened really fast. It's not going to recover fast in terms of days or whatever, but it might slow back earlier than we think. Let's have some level of hope and keep that together and
and look to spot each other.
Yeah. Even though look, we'll all be able to write our own role in the 110 movies that come out on this. We'll all be part of the movies. But yeah, look, no, try and keep the connection with your employer or the business as best you can, and seek to say, look, you know, can we work here together on stuff? Yeah.
Okay, so is the super separate to the JobKeeper, or can you try for both? Can you also...
So to be clear, in other words, accessing your superannuation...
as well as the JobKeeper?
My understanding is yes. In other words, if your income has dropped by 20%, you have an entitlement to access your superannuation,
okay,
regardless of what goes. So that's the way it reads. I've got a self-managed super fund, so you know. But if I need to do that, I will just touch base with my accountant first.
Okay, and should the employee or employer register for the JobKeeper? It's the employer that needs to register.
It needs to be the employer. If you're a sole trader, you can register yourself for the JobKeeper, as we said in item number, where am I?
3, I think it was 3, 2.
2, yeah.
2, thank you.
So you, as a sole trader, you can register yourself and you receive it. If you're an employee, your employer needs to do the registration.
And from what I understand is that they apply for it and they need to assign an employee to actually receive that under their One Touch system, and the same goes.
Yeah, the same goes with the number 2. When you fill it out, you have to provide the tax file number of the person that's going to receive the $1,500, which is you.
Yep. Okay. All right. Do we have any further questions with everyone, or have you completely gotten information overload from here? Oh, thanks, James. I really appreciate it. Yes. Okay. Sorry. Last of all, this has been recorded. We're going to pop it up on YouTube. I'm also going to send the link through to Ken. We will also send you out the link as well for everything. And of course, if you have any questions, both Ken and myself are more than happy to answer those, filter those, go from there as well. Ken, thank you so much for your expertise and actually unpacking this, because far out, it's huge. It's a minefield out there. It's everyone's still in a little bit of chaos and crisis mode, but I feel as though we're coming slowly to the other side of that chaos and crisis mode, I hope. And so we can all start thinking clearly again to move forward with what we need to do.
Look, just one thing I'll say, and look, make sure you do register with us so that you'll get our news alerts and our updates. And look, I'll just say from a very personal perspective, in terms of the management of our emotions around this. When we went through my wife and I with 2 young kids, you know, pre-primary school age and so forth, and it just went on. I couldn't believe that the sales would just drop and drop and drop and just continue to drop. And you know, we got very, very close to losing the house. We had to borrow money to keep the house and so forth. I've got to say, I remember at one stage in the backyard at home, and I just started bawling, right? And I had a really good cry. So I've got to say in all of this, you know, our emotions are there. Let's not ignore it. We're all under stress. And I've got to say, if we have a good cry in the corner, bloody good one. But we can and we will come out of this, and we pull together. And what's terrific is that the government, all of the governments have recognised our role as sole traders, and there's support there. So, yeah.
Yep, thoroughly agree. Okay, guys, I think that is a wrap. Ken, thank you again so much for your insight. It's really appreciated. I'll get these links out to everybody. They'll also be on the AVIP Facebook page very, very soon as I can upload it. And of course, if anybody has any questions, you'll have both Ken's and my email, and we'll send that through to you as well, so we can filter those out. But thank you. Also, there will be information forthcoming as well on both of our websites, so please stay tuned to both of those as well. Thanks again, everybody. Keep your chin up. There is a lifeline out there. And this will pass. That's one motto I keep saying to everybody. This will pass. We will get there. And yes, we're all in this together, and it's a real Aussie way that we are all this together. Yeah. So thanks, everybody, and stay tuned. I'm sure we'll have another webinar again soon.
Okay.
Thanks, Ken.
Bye.